What's going on, guys? I'm Icy Rhythms. Welcome back to another video, and in this one I thought we would try something a little bit different where I take a question from a fan, someone that's been following me for a long time on the channel, and I answer that question. I think with this particular question, it's interesting enough to dedicate an entire video to it, so we can do that for this one. But if you guys want to ask me more interesting questions, just gaming related, if I feel like they're interesting enough, I'll answer them in another video. So we can start doing this where I'm dedicating these videos to your questions. Someone asked me, how do you feel now that consoles are getting closer to 60 FPS on their games? Would PC still be your primary? I mean, I think we have to discuss, first of all, what games we're talking about. I think the only reason for me to even purchase one of the other consoles is for some sort of like mobile aspect, if I want to play like some of my PC games on the go, or some of the exclusives that I can't play anywhere else. And you guys know already how I feel about that. I won't talk about that very much in this video as far as exclusives and things like that. But I think there's some hurdles. There are some hurdles for me as primarily a PC gamer that we would have to get past. I think we're gonna have to move to a consistent 60 FPS across the board, and I'm talking very consistent, like 80-90% of the games are 60 FPS, no less, no drops into the 50s and 40s, and your rare cases where things are going to be in the 20s and 30s. Like, that to me is an awful experience. Where it's dropping, like a solid 30 FPS, I can play it, especially in a console game. I prefer not to, but it's something I can play, and I can still have a somewhat enjoyable experience as long as it's a stable, consistent 30 FPS. But if these games can move, especially the exclusive games, if they can move to 60 FPS, and this is a really big and, Sony and Microsoft can remove paying for online to play multiplayer, then I would consider it. Really, for me, it's just the principle at this point, because I don't really play a lot of online multiplayer competitive games anyway. There are a few, there will be exceptions, and because of that, they would have to remove that paywall. It's literally a wall. I'm having to give more money to access my internet connection. And there's people even now that still make excuses for them, saying these developers and the first party publisher and all of this stuff, consoles are different. They need to find all these different avenues to make money. And for me, that's a really big excuse, because you have the same thing on PC. Developers, the people making these games, the people that have these servers, they need to make money, and they're not charging me to play these games online with my friends or random. So it's a couple of different things, but it seems like to me that consoles will move to 60 FPS and more, 100, 120 FPS in some rare games. But I think if the games that I would be most interested in move exclusively to 60 FPS, and they can make that happen, I don't think it's going to happen with every game, especially considering that the push for 4K is going to happen even more next generation. 4K textures, all of these different 4K assets, and just a generational leap. At least you hope that it'll be a generational leap with not just the hardware itself, but the kind of games that they'll create, the mechanics, and maybe finally some real innovation and some game-changing stuff, because as far as I'm concerned, we haven't really had that for a while. Sony and Microsoft, they're not really innovating. That's not really changing the fact that their games can't be fun. I love Rockstar. They're not necessarily innovating all that much either, but their games are still really good. They're still really fun. So maybe if some other things can change, then maybe I would make a console my primary gaming machine. I think I would still have a pretty capable PC regardless, just for all of that extra performance. I mean, let's be honest, most games aren't going to hit 90 FPS, 100 FPS, 120, 140, so on and so forth on consoles. So I'm still going to miss that on PC, especially with a lot of the AAA stuff. But again, I think if the games I would be most interested in in particular on Sony's platform, or if eventually there's like a Switch Pro or something, if they can all move to 1080p or 1440, 60 FPS, yeah, I would be very interested. And then you have the online paywall. So with those two things out of the way, it would be, I don't want to say definitively that I would move to a PlayStation 5 exclusively or a Switch Pro or something, but with those two things out of the way, yeah, I would consider it in a big way. As a primarily a PC gamer, I would consider it in a big way because, you know, the upfront initial cost of that console is a lot less than it's gonna cost me to upgrade my PC if I choose to do so. Not necessarily because I have to, but because I would choose to do so. So it's something to keep in mind. It's definitely something that I'll keep in mind. Thank you for that question. I think it was a very good question, but you know, there's still so many things about PC that feel like such freedom that, you know, I would have to take those things into consideration as well. So we might be able to do a follow-up video to this in the future if you would like to see that. And again, you guys can feel free to ask me questions that are gaming related. And, you know, again, if I feel they're interesting enough, I will get to them and we can do another video where I dedicate my time to just those questions. So you guys have a good one. Thank you again for watching. I do appreciate it. All the continued support. Make sure to follow me on Twitter. Make sure to follow me on Twitch. Links to those in the description. And also, for those that want to, you can join my Discord. I will try and remember to put a link for that in the description. You guys have a good one. Take care. Peace.
There's some cheap office supplies if you want them.
You're always this talkative on the job.
Yeah.